How's it going, everybody? DJ K DuB Omaha, Wired Access Podcast with the All Axcess Granted.
I didn't want that to be the standard. I didn't want someone else in the room to set the standard. I always wanted to do that.
The journey to get there, I think, is something, that is amazing.
Let's get this podcast started.
That's right. It is DJ K DuB Omaha here with a Wired Access, All Axcess Granted. Just working out a little kinks in the basement in the new setup at the new house. Today I am welcoming my best friend, but also someone who this year got the recognition that he's been working hard for. And he is the Iowa District Umpire of the Year.
Southwest
District.
Iowa. District Umpire of the Year.
Okay. Southwest District Umpire of the Year. We got Dustin Taylor. You may see him in some of my videos. He's also the foreman behind the camera, Hans Gruber.
Yeah, he is.
Now you're in front of the camera. You've seen episodes. You've seen everything that I've done. What's been your thought these past 4 years? Like, did you ever think something like this would ever come of it?
Oh, no, man. No. I thought maybe I would co-host something with you, but to be interviewed, to be the guy, that's not me. I'm the man behind the camera. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to be noticed and recognized, but when you do get it, it's nice. It's nice to get it.
Dude, you've worked so hard, and umpiring is not an easy job, and as it said, raw, real, and hated by many.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. I can remember all the way back to when I was 13 years old. One of the first umpiring gigs I got, this is back when people wore shorts and the blue button up dress shirt that you wear to church, with the butterfly collar and whatnot, man. And I didn't know what was going on. I had played baseball and I got older brothers, but I didn't know what to do when it was time to do what it was, and it was just to think where I started and to where I am today, where I've evolved with this game that is evolving, is just, man, it's mind blowing.
Well, I mean, you didn't just enjoy playing the game. You decided to take up the realm. What made you decide? Because there is a lot of baseball players, and especially when you're young and in Little League needs help. Coach pitch, all that.
Yeah.
So you get your first gig. What do you remember about your first umpiring gig? What was the age grade that you were looking at? And was it coach pitch? Was it by yourself?
Well, when I was 13, when I was a kid way back in the day, I'm gonna date some people here, but back in my day, we had T-ball, we had pitching machine, and then we went right into 6, 7, 8-year-olds throwing pitches. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have coach pitch, we didn't have any of that. And the only T-ball or pitching machine that I was associated with was down in my grandfather's hometown, Southwest Kansas, down in Pickway, where I would go visit him every summer. And at the time, it was 1 year I played T-ball, and then the next year I got to play with the pitching machine team. And then from there, it was we go straight in. We didn't have coach pitch back then. So when I started umpiring at 13, I was doing the 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. And it was again, to think back then we wore the big bubble, the big bubbles. We didn't always have shin guards because there weren't enough to go around. So if you were on the lower level field, you didn't get shin guards because the upper level field got them.
Because they needed them.
Yeah, right. Because the equipment was scarce. So you didn't get shin guards. And I remember that first time I was behind the plate and my partner said, "It's all right. We don't need shin guards today." And we shared equipment back then. You didn't have your own equipment. The only thing that was your own were your clothes. That was the only thing that was your own.
We're sharing masks.
Or your clicker, but we shared masks. We shared ball bags. We didn't even have ball bags back in the day. The guy in the field held the extra ball while the umpire behind the plate called balls and strikes. And if a foul ball went out, the guy in the field threw the pitcher the ball. That's how we did it back in the day. So I'm back there. I'm behind the plate, and I take that first ball to my shin. without a shin guard on. And I promised to gosh, all I wanted to do was cry and leave. Like I looked around and my girlfriend and her mom were in the stands at the time because they were my ride everywhere. And I looked around and her mom was looking at me and she's like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "No, I want to go home. I don't want to do this anymore." And to think, $18 a game back then, like 36 years ago, $18 a game. That's
But
what
at 13, $18 was a lot.
Oh,
like,
bro, back in those days,
Yeah.
$18 a game was like you were living on cloud 9,
yeah.
and now people are getting like $100 a game. And I don't know if it's worth my time.
How did you get past that first not wanting to go back?
Well, it's just kind of one of those things where I really wasn't raised to quit that often, and I'd committed to the season, because a friend of mine from school at the time got me in to it. His dad was scheduling umpires, and it was not in the same league that I played in. It was all the way across town in the rich league. We played in the affordable league in Kimberry, at Kimberry and Topeka, Kansas. We played in the affordable league. The kids out at the other league, they called it SCABA back in the day. It might still be that. They played in the I Can Afford More Things league. So I umpired in that league and I played in the other league. And it was just one of those things where I committed and I liked money because I came from a situation growing up where money wasn't a thing. It wasn't like, oh, here's $20, go have fun. No.
What'd you make? That's what
know,
it is,
it's like it's you gotta if you want things, you gotta make money to get things. Back in my day, it wasn't just like we do these days. We just hand things to people. We just hand them to them. Here you go.
You need $20? Here you
Right.
go.
So it's just one of those things where I got through the first night of games, and then I went back and it was like from a young age, I realized that it's better to just watch and observe and then figure out how I can work that into my system. Like I didn't know position. I didn't know where to be. I didn't know where to go. I knew a strike zone because I caught all the time. I was a catcher. So I was really good behind the plate. Like I could call balls and strikes. I could do that. But as far as, in the field and being in position and being where you're supposed to, I didn't know all those things. So I would just watch. I would watch umpires. And as a kid, my brother and I, Jason, we would literally watch baseball every night of the week on TV. It'd be a Braves game or it'd be a Royals game.
You got the Cubs,
or
the good old PBS.
Sometimes it'd be a Cubs game if the Braves weren't playing.
Well, and Cubs only played during the day.
Yeah,
they didn't have lights at Wrigley.
Right. So it's just one of those things where the more comfortable I got, then the better I felt.
How did you change your aspect of how you treated umpires? Because I think once you get treated a certain way or you see it from the other side, which everybody goes, I wish everybody would have to ref one game. And they do it in volleyball. In volleyball, you have to, if you're watching a game, normally it's like 3 teams on a court. They're rotating through those 3 teams. And if you're not playing, you're refereeing.
Right.
So like, I think sometimes that could open your mind, but other times you could still just be cocky and be like, dude, I know my strike zone. I know what was the DT back in the day.
Right. So Dustin back in the day was the type of player that sometimes gets under my skin today. Dustin was a very aggressive, very verbal, very communicative person, especially working behind the plate as a catcher. It was just one thing where you learn to control a game through the flow of what you're doing and your guy on the mound. And you got to work for your guy on the mound when you're behind the plate. You got to work for him. And sometimes you don't get what you think you should be getting. And I wasn't always the best. I never, and as I think about it now, I got kicked out of, I was ejected from one game in my entire youth baseball career, all the way through Babe Ruth into college. I was ejected for one game. And it was a rule that I did not know at the time. And the guy that ejected me was my brother's baseball coach his entire youth growing up from 8 to 15, 16.
Which doesn't happen much anymore.
You know, and his son was working the game with him. And the only game I got kicked out of was that particular game because I didn't understand the rule at the time. You know, and
what was the rule?
Okay, so it was runner's interference going to first base. Okay, so as a runner, you're taught to run straight down the line. It was a drop ball, third strike. I struck out. You're taught to just run straight down the line. We didn't have coaches that opened the rule book back in the day and said, hey, by the way, that little running lane there just off the first base line, 45 foot up to the bag, you're supposed to run on that side with all plays at first base. They didn't teach us those things. They didn't tell us.
No, you just ran through the bag.
You just ran straight down the line and through the bag. Well, I was doing that and the ball hit me in the back. And I touched first base and I assumed I was safe.
Like, yes, I'm in.
So Roger Farthing, I'm going to say it. Roger Farthing, if you ever hear this, you know, him and Lance were working that game. Again, my brother's baseball coach forever and one of his best friends playing baseball growing up. He called me out and I completely lost it. I was like, Roger, what are you talking about? Like, the ball hit me. Like, is this a dodgeball? You know what I'm saying? This is baseball. Like, he's got to catch the ball and be on the back. I beat the play. He's like, yeah, but you're supposed to run in this runner's lane, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And as he explained it to me, I'm thinking, okay, all right, fair enough. And here's where I got kicked out. And I wasn't trying to get kicked out, but I took my helmet off. And back in the day, we had those underground dugouts. We had a fence up there and the bats sat up there. And I threw my helmet and it just happened to hit the fence where the bats were. And every single bat went ding, 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 down into the dugout. And good old Raj gave me the heave-ho for that. You know, but back in my day, we only had to sit that game. We could play the very next game as first game of doubleheader. I came back. But again, that's the only game I ever get kicked out. But as far as players go, for me, I'm like I like the aggressiveness. I like the cockiness. It reminds me of me. It reminds me of my brothers playing. Well, not specifically Jason, but Chad, he was that way. Jason was just a great ball player. You know, Chad and I were just a little bit more cocky about how we played the game, to whereas Jason just played the game. But I love to see that in kids these days. But at the same time, there's a certain amount of respect that we always had back in my day for officials. Basketball officials, baseball officials, you know, any official. We had that respect. Like, words might have been said, but we always had that line that we would toe to and we wouldn't cross, and we'd always be respectful. We never cursed back in my day. We never cussed out the umpire. We never just blamed the umpire for us getting our tails kicked in or whatever. Were we always happy with? No, nobody's ever happy with all the calls. But at the same time, we just played the game. You know, but kids today take it past that line because that's what they've been taught to do, unfortunately, sometimes, you know.
Well, and you do both, right? You do basketball and you do baseball. So, you know, most umpires that you guys are seeing out there, they're not just one sport referees. They do multiple. So, of course, they see these kids on multiple levels that are the multi-sport athletes. They see them do multiple things. You think back to your high school days, like, when did it start for you going how far you really thought you could go in baseball and how far you thought you could do in umpiring?
Well, for me, I always thought I would play college baseball. I'd get drafted. I'd be in the MLB, probably be in the Hall of Fame by now.
Close.
Like, that was like every baseball player has that dream growing up.
Yeah.
You know, thinking as a kid, like, I'm going to be the next Babe Ruth, the next Lou Gehrig, Cal Ripken Jr., whatever it may be. We want to be that guy. We were in the yard every day. We were at the park every day that we could get there. We played baseball. That's what we did. But when you get to a certain level, like, I got to college and it was like, I felt like I was good enough, but I wasn't there. And I felt like my heart wasn't in it. And I did some things and I left the team and I wanted to stay in the game of baseball. And I'd always umpired 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way up. And I just felt like the only way that I could stay in the game that I loved so much was to become part of the game and to start umpiring the game. So I took it a little bit more serious, coming out of college to a point to where I loved to umpire. Like no matter what, you could sit in the stands in the front row and you could yell the meanest things at me in the entire world, and I would turn around and smile at you, and I would get right back there and call the same strike I called the inning before, because I just love the game that much.
You of course start turning yourself when it came to umpiring, even at a younger age. When did you start looking at yourself as far as the reflection of how good you were doing? I know now we talk about it. Those are the great things that we get to talk to after the next day after a game. Hey, what'd you feel? You're a person that's a percentage now. You always look at what you do. What do you remember for yourself when you started to, just change the mindset from player to doing more of the umpiring, even at a young age?
When I got into my late teens, 15, 16, 17, the way I saw the game as an umpire, I viewed it different as a player. Like I had a little bit better temperament as a player because I knew the rules. Like I understood the rules now for the most part, except that one rule,
Roger.
Yeah, right. Roger. But I understood the rules, and I felt like in that aspect I could help my teammates understand the rules better, and we could be a better respectful team to the umpires. And maybe the nicer you are, the more lenient an umpire may be for you. Like, think of it this way: if you're catching balls and strikes all day, and you're like, oh, where'd that one miss? Oh, where'd that one miss? Where'd that one miss? Where'd that one? If you're always asking me as a catcher, you should know where that ball missed. But a good catcher will only say once in a while, I like that one, DT. Where was that? Had that one a little down. I had that one a little down. But when a catcher would do that to me once in a while, I would think, okay, maybe I did miss that pitch, because he's not questioning every pitch. He's questioning one pitch here and there. To whereas is a before I umpired, I was like, ooh, you miss that, you miss that, you miss that. And now I'm umpiring. I'm like, I learned to communicate better. Like, okay, look, if you're not going to give that to me, you're not going to give that to them. And I'm okay with it. And if you call a strike when I'm up to bat and you're going to give them 3 inches off the plate, I will turn around and say, Bailey, I expect that pitch next inning when I'm behind the plate. You can call it on me. I'm fine with it. But if my guy gets it, we're good. If he don't get it, I'm going to be upset.
It's that double-edged sword of wanting the consistency, knowing how to get it with using of words. And you think of it, I mean, let's look at it this way. You were in restaurant business management for a long time. You saw how in that aspect, how consistency is hard. How is that the same case for, of course, the umpires? I mean, there's the different aspect of how they take their job. There's the different aspect of maybe they had something go wrong before they even got there. So then they use that against, like, there's so many human factors in the umpiring world that it's hard to gain that respect because other people don't put themselves out there like that. Some are just collecting the money. Not everybody has the heart of the game. How do you kind of try to help mold the best that you can, not only yourself, but who you work with? So then players can see, hey, if this guy's around, this is what we're going to get. We know it's consistency. You obviously have coaches here. Doesn't mean it's always great relationships, but they know. They tell you they want you.
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, for me, I think every sports official, umpire, whatever, I think we all get blamed for the last guy. Like, well, he didn't give that pitch yesterday and you're giving it today. Well, I'm not him. I'm not the last guy. I'm today's guy. I'm the in the moment guy. So for me, it was always consistency is what's always going to win out. I mean, if you can't go out and be consistent on both sides of the ball, then you're just going to have a horrible situation all night long. But you have to be confident in the way you work, And when I first started working in the Omaha metro area, nobody knew me. Like, the umpires didn't know me. The coaches didn't know me. It didn't matter that I just come back from Wendell-Stat school. It didn't matter. Nobody knew me. And I couldn't get a varsity dish to save my life. And I worked, I don't know, half the season on the bases before I finally got behind the plate and called a game. And when I did, it was just like ripping the Band-Aid off, because now it's an addiction that I just want to fulfill as many times as I can. And when you're in the zone and you're having one of those games, it's, you know it and everybody else knows it, you know. And I think all these coaches around that have learned that just because you don't know a guy doesn't mean he's not the guy, you know. And what I had to do was prove to them that I'm the guy, you know. So year 1, it was a struggle for me. Year 2, a little bit better. Year 3, a little bit better. Year 4, I show up to a field. Hey, Dustin, good to see you. Oh my God, Greg Gary knows me. Steve Fry knows me. Oh, okay. I'm making headway here, you know. And when you see people that are happy to see you, you know that you're doing something right, you know. But again, I think the biggest thing that a lot of us suffer for is the previous guy, because like you said, there are those guys that just want to take as many games as they can, and they want to get as much money in their pocket as possible. And at the end of the day, they don't care how they did as long as they get paid, you know. And I've never felt like, I felt like paying me to do what I love to do is almost a travesty. Like, I'm not going to do it for free. Everybody, I mean, I got gear, I got clothes, I got gas. But to pay me to do what I love to do is like, it's like a travesty. It's like robbing a kid of their candy. Like, you're giving me something to do what I already want to do. Like, I want to do it, you know?
Now you're just adding a little icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the best part about what we get to do, not only with the lawn service, but with everything we get to do, is we lived so long in the restaurant world where it was night and day. Wake up, hate it, dislike it. We learned a lot of qualities for ourselves. We obviously kept our families going, but we weren't there mentally beyond what we knew we had to do. It wasn't like, you know. So you talked about going to the school. How long, or why do you think you waited so long in your life to get to that point?
Man,
You can't change it. We know it all happened
No.
for a reason, the way it did.
but if
Obviously, you wouldn't have your wonderful wife now if you
Right.
didn't go that route,
Right.
but
right, because y'all be seeing me on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball 10 years earlier. But you know, I'd heard about school, you know, when I was working in my late teens, and you know, it back when I actually got a job, it was work the job, the regular job. My first job at Long John Silver's at 16, it was playing baseball and it was umpiring baseball. Those were the 3 things that I did, you know. And to balance life in the middle of that chaos was just like, it was what it was. Um, you know, and then just moving forward, it's like I heard about the school and people were like, you should do that. And I had a goal. Once I stopped playing baseball, it was to get a teaching degree. It was to go and find a high school coaching baseball job somewhere, maybe a college baseball job coaching, something like that. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to do. And then I got stuck in the restaurant business, and I got complacent, and then I just hit a spot where I was literally 30 years old. And I decided, I was like, I want to go. Like, I want to go. And it was the worst time to go, you know. Got a kid on the way. Got a good job that pays me really good money. And now I'm going to just uproot my life for 6 weeks, go down to Daytona in the hopes that I can get a job that's going to pay me $1,200 a month until I can make some of myself. But I had to see, you know, like I had to see, because it was either that or quit doing what I was doing and fall off the rails. So I had to try.
you talk about this school. Is there multiple out there to go to?
Well, and my day, and they've recently changed the whole umpiring school, but at the time it was a Jim Evans or Harry Wendelstadt. Those were the two schools. Harry Wendelstadt fed more umpires to the major leagues at the time than Jim Evans did. To my understanding, that's what I was understood. Today, you know, and it's not, and back then it wasn't a cheap investment. It was a $5,000 plus investment, you know, to go down there and to be there for 6 weeks and to do nothing but to learn baseball and umpire baseball and talk about baseball 6 days a week for the next 6 weeks. It was just one of those things where I had to try, you know, and at 30 years old, I'm already up against the wall because the typical guy they're looking for, and they'll tell you, is 18 to 25. You know, the older you are, the more difficult it will be. And man, was it difficult. It was probably one of the hardest things I've done.
What do you remember at that time, just talking to your family about this coming to fruition and before you made the trip? What do you remember about those times?
Man, I didn't want to be away from my family. You know, I didn't want to do that. But, you know, I wanted to do better, you know, and even I thought, even if I couldn't get a job in the MLB, that I could still come back and maybe get a job in college, you know, and maybe work my way up that way through Division 3, 2, and 1 baseball and stuff like that. But, you know, but the biggest thing was you want to teach your kids, you know, and you want to teach people like, hey, if you have a dream, give it a shot. I mean, if you don't try, what are you going to do? Talk about it? Oh, I thought about going on umpire school one time, you know, or I thought about doing this one time, but, you know, to actually sit there and say, like, you know, that for me was a life lesson. Like, I gave it a shot, and I don't feel like I was that far off from getting the job. I really don't.
What do you remember about going down to Florida and just the first glimpse for you?
It was a eye-widening experience. Like to understand what you're about to do for 8 to 10 hours a day for the next 6 days. I mean, you're not getting paid for it. Nobody's cutting you a check at the end of the week for all the hard work you're putting in. No, you paid them to be there, you know? And for me, I was out of shape at the time. I wasn't out of shape personally. I didn't feel like I was out of shape, but I was out of shape for this camp. I was in pain. My legs hurt all the time. I wanted to quit a couple different times, you know, and I had some conversations with people and I spoke to some people and I ended up sticking it out. And I tell you, Jordan Baker was one of the instructors down there my year. And he's one heck of an MLB umpire right now. In my perspective, I'd say he's probably top 5 MLB umpire. And had it not been for Jordan Baker, I probably would have come home. You know, I probably would have. But I stuck around, and again, I think it's, again, because when you quit, you don't know. You know, again, I could have quit, come home, and be like, I could have made it, but I was out of shape. So
blame someone else.
Yeah, I'll go back again, maybe. You know, but for me, this was my one chance. I'm not a returning student guy. Like, I can't come back next year.
I mean, you were M&M guy, so is this like your one shot?
This was my one shot. You know, it wasn't like I could just be like, hey, I'm coming back next year, because that's what Jordan told me in my eval at the end of the camp. He said, Dustin, I promise if you come back next year, I promise you'll get a job. And I was like, JB, I can't, man. I just can't afford that. Yeah. Like that's a huge expense for me. And I got a kid that's going to be born in June this year. You know, like, that's a huge expense.
So for those that are wondering what he's talking about, is he would have to repay the $5,000 again to invest. So now, not only investing in the trip, the time, the money, you're investing it twice is what they're asking you. Those are the realities of it. Is not everybody gets that opportunity to get to that level or that top. And even when people tell you you're good and you're doing it in front of the right people, it doesn't mean that it turns into opportunities. So what was your biggest adversity besides wanting to come home during that camp for you? Like, what did he even tell you what would put you over the top? What would have gotten it?
No, they just, all my scores were good. I think I was in the 85 percentile. My test scores could have been a little bit better, as far as the rules went. Don't get me wrong, but as far as my field and all that, it was just, you could tell by the things that were said and written that I was out of shape. Getting around the field without shin guards and a chest protector on, I was really good at. But as soon as we geared up, I was a little clumsy at it. I wasn't used to it. I never wore plate shoes in my entire life of umpiring until I went to this camp and bought a pair of plate shoes. I just wore regular turf shoes and protected my toes.
What's the difference between the plate shoes and
the plate shoe is a steel toe shoe, to where you don't have to have happy feet and move your feet, because if the ball hits you, it's not going to hurt. But back in my day, we had happy feet. If the ball went in the dirt on my left side,
jump up,
we'd pick up our left foot. If it went in the dirt on the right side, we'd pick up our right foot. And I never had worn those type of shoes, and I had never had umpired the way that they were teaching you to umpire. Like I never knew you had to be 45 foot down the first base line on a play at first. I never knew that when there was a runner on first and a base hit to the outfield that I had to go to third and cover third for the lead runner. I didn't know those things, so learning those things and putting those things into action and knowing them in your brain. And then all of a sudden you're out there doing it. For me, the first 2 or 3 weeks, I felt like I was a little lost on the field mechanics part, but I could call balls and strikes. I've always had a good zone and I've always had good judgment, and the hardest thing is when you're at umpire school, which they don't have anymore. They have umpire camps, but when you're at umpire school, the hardest thing is that you have umpires playing baseball that don't play baseball, and then umpires umpiring those umpires playing baseball. So it's kind of like, think of some of the worst rec games you've ever seen. You're a parent.
Fall ball.
You're a parent. You
fall ball.
Yes. So think of some of those games that you've ever seen, and then think of, there's guys out here of umpiring this, trying to get a job in the MLB based off of this type of baseball that they're being forced to be evaluated on, and for me, that was a little taken back, because when I played, like when I was not umpiring and I was playing, like I played baseball, and one guy came up and said, "Hey, if you keep acting like you want to play baseball, they're going to get you out of here real quick. You're an umpire. Stop acting like you want to play baseball." I was like, "Oh, okay. So you're telling me if the ball doesn't come to me, don't field it." And he said, "Exactly. Let it go." Okay. So when I'm playing first base, you don't want me to scoop the balls in the dirt. You just want me to catch the ones that come to me. Exactly. Okay. Now I know the rules of that, because some guys were out there playing. I was playing baseball. I was taught to play baseball by two brothers. I was taught to play, and I was playing. And then some guy was like, "Dude, stop doing that." But these days, these guys don't have to go to a camp. It's not a 6-8 week camp. It's a weekend camp, and it's free. All you got to do is get there. That's all you got. All you got to do is get there, and they're holding, 6 some camps a year throughout the United States, and these guys show up and they hang out for, I think it's a day and a half, 2-day camp. And now they're getting jobs in the minor leagues and working their way up from a 2-day camp. Back
compared to a 6 week.
Like if I'd had a 2-day camp 19 years ago, I probably wouldn't have come back to Burger King. You know what I'm saying? Like it would have been a doable thing for me at a 2-day camp.
Yeah.
And if I didn't get it right the first time and it was free, I could have got it right the second time.
I'm going to find
or
my
the
way.
third time.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is getting myself there. So I feel like these guys today, when it comes to that aspect, again, and this is me as a parent, I've coddled all of my children. Okay. I've coddled them since birth. My wife and I coddle them currently, and we have teenagers. All 4 of those girls are teenagers. Okay. But I feel like with that experience, they're not getting the full experience.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like I don't want to use the wrong language, but it's simplifying it,
Yeah.
To where you have given more people more opportunities to do something that not everybody would normally do.
Well, and the thing is you're putting the answers out there in front of them instead of sometimes letting them struggle to find it.
Right.
That's why we moved our kids from Bellevue East to Papio South.
Right.
Is I wanted them to challenge and see the challenge. I
Right.
didn't want them to feel like everything was given.
Right.
There's some good and some bad. There's some things of nowadays, there is some things that you want to make sure that you're given. And there's other things that, you could see when they get their first job, how they're starting to do.
Right.
And
I don't want to take away from these guys.
Yeah.
These guys that are getting jobs based off these camps now, they're good umpires. Like, they're great umpires. I know some of these guys.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. They're great umpires, and they're doing the dang thing. They're doing something that I didn't do. I came just a little bit short, but they're still doing it, and they're progressing, and they're moving up in the ranks, and that's great for them. And I think it's great for the game because honestly, I felt like, again, when you're paying that much money to go to a school for 6 to 8 weeks, that's a business for somebody.
Yeah, you can start it a long
That's
company.
a business for Hunter and his father, Harry.
Yeah.
That's their business. Now, Hunter, great umpire, his dad, great umpire, Hall of Famer, love the guys, but that's their business, is to take the guys that aren't there to get a job, but just want to have, like, it's a fantasy camp for them. And then we had a lot of older guys at my camp. Oh, Dustin, I'm not here to get a job, man. I just want to be better high school umpire when I go back home. I'm like, that's cool. Like, I get it. Well, why'd you come here? Because, man, I got the money and I wanted experience at one time. I never thought I would even think about getting a job. I just wanted to come and have fun. Or a couple guys are like, oh, my grandkids sent me this. It was like a Christmas present, so a lot of guys were going to school back in the day just to go.
And you're like, I'm trying to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the instructors know who those people are. Like, they know. And, and it's just, again, 19 years ago, things could have been different. Had they been different for, like they are now.
What do you think you gained after leaving that for you?
Acceptance of failure. And it took a while, man. I was upset. I was depressed. I came back home and I wasted my family's time. I spent all that money for nothing. It didn't yield me anything. All I did was spend more money while I was there, on equipment and going out and hanging out with the guys, but I felt like I let my family down, to the point to where I didn't even umpire baseball that summer when I came back. Like, I called a guy, and I was like, hey, I just got back from umpire school. I'm looking to umpire some games, and he acted like he wasn't interested in me based off the conversation we had. So I didn't call back. I didn't umpire a game that whole first year I was back, and then I went back to work. Finally, I finally figured it out. I got to do something. I got a kid coming in June. Here we are, February, into February. So I got to do something, and I dug myself out of the hole, and I got back to work. And then the next year, I was like, I'm going to umpire a lot of baseball this year. I'm going to figure it out one way or another, and I'm going to get to where I want to get, or I feel like I can get. And I'm going to be good at that level. I'm going to be great at that level. Those are the things that kind of just, and when I say I umpired a lot of baseball that first year, bro, you know me. I was working 5 days a week at Wendy's. I was getting off work at 4, and I was at the ballpark by 4:15. I worked a double 5 nights a week, and on Saturday and Sunday, I worked 6 games each day. I worked a lot of baseball.
What levels?
During the week, it was usually high school stuff, because the guy that I talked to, we finally had a real conversation. Denny Jones, RIP, Metro Umpires. We had a real conversation, and I finally told him, I was like, dude, I want to umpire a lot of baseball. I don't think you understand. And he gave me not the best games in the Metro, but he gave me games, and on the weekends, it was that weekend warrior tournament stuff, you triple SA, single, double A, triple A, sometimes major. But weekends, was always tournaments for me. And then during the week, it was usually high school stuff.
First high school game in the Omaha area that you remember? You get that opportunity with Denny, and
I can't think of the first one, honestly, because there have been, since 17 years ago, that's thousands of games ago. But I remember one specific time where it was my first year. And again, I hadn't been able to get a plate. Every guy I worked with was like, I don't know you. I'm working the plate. You work the bases for the varsity. You can do the JV or the reserve plate. That's fine. This particular time, I was working a Papio South game. I was new to the area. I pre-Google Maps. This was like MapQuest time. Okay, not smartphone time. This was like flip phone time. I thought they played at Fricky Field. Okay, over there in La Vista. And I pull up over there and nobody's there. And the guy that I was working with, I talked him into letting me do the plate. Like, I begged and begged. I was like, dude, let me do the plate, man. I need to get behind there and call balls and strikes. Nobody's letting me do it. He's like, okay, I'll let you do it. I end up at Fricky Field.
Oh boy. Which is only 10 minutes away, but
so
still.
I call, but I'd come from work. Okay. Game was at 4:30, and I got a Fricky Field at 3:55. I am not a 15-minute before the game kind of guy.
Yeah.
Especially when you want to do the plate. So I called the boss, man. I was like, dude, nobody's here, man. Where am I supposed to be at? And he's like, Papio South. I was like, what? Where's that at? He's like, out there on 370 and blah, blah. I was like, yeah, you're going to have to be a little more specific than that. So I found my way out there. I called the guy I was working with on the way there, and I told him, I was like, dude, I'm not going to be able to do the plate, man. I went to the wrong place. I'm sorry. That guy didn't talk to me all night long, man. And it still took me, I think it was Kevin Dunn that gave me my first plate over at Fricky Field. It was the Monarchs and Miller North, I believe. I slipped on my butt going to cover a play at third, slipped on the field, fell on my butt, got up, made the call. Kevin said I was right. I think we went 9 innings that day in about 72 minutes. I think it was a 2-1 game, maybe something like that. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. I think that was one of my very first plates. Like, my very first plate was that game.
And of course, you're trying to build yourself up to grow and get those opportunities. But we all know in the game of life and everything that we love to do, someone is gatekeeping. Someone is doing things, whether they feel they're doing it particular to you or not. They're just holding you back. What was that like for you to know that as you grew, the competition should have been getting to where you wanted it, but yet it never came in grasp?
Well, and for me, it's like, I went to Division I camps. I went to clinics. I went to meetings. I talked to guys. I got evals. But it was, the consensus was, I'm not going to schedule you if I haven't seen you work. Okay, well, how are you going to see me work then? If you're not going to schedule me a game that means 0 something to somebody. You just let me see how I could do it. Just see how good I could be.
And for you, it didn't matter who. Every game is still the same.
I would take the 150th and 155th Division I teams in the country, and I would have umpired that game like it was Game 7 of the World Series.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was the consensus. Like, hey, you've got this, this, and this, but I don't schedule in your area. and nobody's going to schedule you if they haven't seen you work, and nobody's going to do this. And, and then you get in contact with another guy that says he's going to do this for you. And then it just didn't work out the way I was led to believe. And I finally figured out that I'm a really great high school umpire. Like I am. I mean, I took this spring off in Nebraska. Wife and I just bought a new house, trying to get some stuff done there after we get off the lawns and stuff like that, to where I'm not running ragged until my Iowa stuff starts next month. But I'm a really great high school umpire. Like, if you're a coach and you know me now they do. Like, and I'll talk to all these guys in Iowa, and they even tell me, at least we know what we're getting when you walk on the field. And that's the bottom line. If a coach knows you well enough to know what they're getting when you walk onto the field or when you're on their schedule that night, and that puts them at ease, then you're already winning. You're already there. It's those other guys, like I said, I feel like a lot of us are always making up for the previous guy, and not all the time. Okay. But you'll hear more often, well, last night, or so-and-so, or this person. And it's just, again, you have to remind people it's today. Okay. I'm me. And you know what I'm going to do when I'm here, and it just, you think it's like, I don't even know sometimes, like, I don't know.
You start your career going with a lot of high school stuff. You're working both sides, Nebraska, Iowa. What's some of the differences that people don't understand between the games, even if it is just across state? What's some of the things that people don't understand all the time, where they think they know all the rules, whether it's a can't have this, can have this? What's some of the differences between Iowa and Nebraska high school baseball that you notice?
Well, I mean, typically the competition level is, I feel like it's great on both sides of the bridge. I feel like in the spring in Nebraska, and Iowa plays their season, their high school season, May, June, and July. To whereas Nebraska will go March, April, and early May.
And then they'll go Legion.
And then they start Legion from there. And on the Iowa side, we have, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. Now, Nebraska's expanding their classes, but it used to just be Class A, Class B. Now you have Class C, and they're expanding and whatever. But a lot of differences is for, and again, I'm not trying to say one thing or the other negative about anything, but Nebraska, it feels like everybody's always on a little bit more edgy, like, not saying they're more competitive, but it's just edgy. And I always like to blame that on the weather, because it's cold out, it's cold out. Iowa gets to, we get to play that nice baseball, to where Nebraska, we're fighting the cold, we're fighting the wind, so it's a little bit edgier on the Nebraska side, and not in a negative way. Coaches are a little bit more verbal on the Nebraska side. Now in Iowa, they're getting a little bit more verbal, just a little bit, not a lot, because we did take the sportsmanship ratings away. Like, as an umpire in Iowa, for the longest time, after every contest, you could go in and you could rate the head coach, the coaching staff, the players, the fan base. You could rate them all sportsmanship wise. And knowing that the officials could do that, games were controlled a lot better that way. And don't get me wrong, coaches are still going to fight for their players. They're still going to defend their players, and ejections are still going to happen even in that scenario. But they knew that there was an accountability system, and I had asked several times, how come the state of Nebraska doesn't have it? And I was told that they did have it and they took it away. And well, they ended up doing that in Iowa too, but, and as far as players and competition, I mean, I think I mean, I don't think anybody's getting signed less on the other side of the bridge than they are here. I really don't. I mean, there's some really great ball players over there, and a lot of them, some ball players might play, for a 1A team in the corner conference that nobody knows about, but they're doing it, and I think in Nebraska here, these kids get a lot more baseball exposure, because they have that spring season. And then they take a week or two off, and then they go into that Legion season. And these kids are playing baseball literally every day,
Mm-hmm.
except Sundays, I believe. During the high school season, I think, do they play Legion baseball on Sundays? I don't know, because I don't
Probably.
work Legion baseball. I don't work Legion baseball. But at the same time, these guys are playing, their full high school season, and they're playing that full Legion season, to where the Iowa kids are playing their high school season, and then when that's done, they get into an all-star series, and then a lot of them will get picked up on a perfect game team, and they'll do a little traveling the rest of the year and play on that side of the ball, and play some fall ball with them as well. But I think on this side of the bridge that these kids are playing far many more games for the most part at the high school level.
I can tell you at the younger level too, man. Those what they do to 8, 9, 10-year-olds nowadays, anywhere
dude.
from 60 to 80 is
That's ridiculous,
crazy,
man. I remember, man, we played 18 game seasons at Kimberry. 18 game seasons, and then we had an end of season tournament, double elimination. 18 games. And we didn't have all that select stuff and this, that, and travel ball.
No.
Like, I think
you might have pulled up to a game in jeans, with the t-shirt.
Yeah, right. And I'll be honest with you, my first team, 6, 7, 8-year-old, we played for the Cougars, and we wore jerseys with blue jeans.
Yeah.
That was our uniform.
Yeah.
And then we moved into pants and stirrups the next year, and then it was just moving on up.
For yourself, do you feel like this is still your way to stay connected, but also give back to the game that you love? As far as giving back to teaching the game? Because I know if it's something like basketball that you referee as well, you're not just sitting there just calling balls and strikes. If the kids are open and you could tell that they're asking the right questions, you're going to teach. You're not just going to sit there and, no, that was a strike. That's what I called.
No, I would say I'm more of a preventative umpire. Like, if a kid balks on the mound, everybody knows he balks for the most part. And I might let that go the first time, but then I might say, hey, you need to slow down, or hey, going too fast up there. And then the third base coach will be like, stop warning him and just call the balk. But then I do it for his guy, and he's like, oh,
yeah.
But if people are receptive to the information that I have to give, I will give information all night long. Okay. But if you're not receptive to what I have to give, or you don't respect the game the way I feel like the game should be respected, not me per se. Listen, again, umpires are half right and half wrong. Okay. One team wins, one team loses. As an umpire, I've never won a game, but I have sure lost a whole bunch. I'm like, and like 1,000 plus. Okay. But I've never won a game. Yeah. Not one, but I have lost multiple games along my career here. So it's just it's just one of those things that if you respect me, I will respect you. And the older I've gotten, as a young kid, I took a lot of stuff. Like, I would stand there and I would take it. And I would let a head coach say whatever they wanted to say to me. And then when they were done, I would say what I wanted to say to them. And then I would send them on their way. The older I get, I treat head coaches and players exactly the way they treat me. If you come to me in a disrespectful manner, I will answer you in a disrespectful manner. Not so disrespectful that I'm disrespecting my job or my trade, but I will not be the guy that you think I should be, because you could be whatever you want to be to me.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a situation last year where I ended a game on a call. It wasn't my call at first base. I was the home plate umpire. As a play at first base. As a home plate umpire, you get down the line, 45 foot. I wasn't 45, probably 32-ish. But I was there. I saw the play. My partner called the guy safe. The kid was clearly out. They appealed. I called the kid out. The head coach comes yell at me because it's the top of the 7th inning. They're down a run and they have 2 outs, and this guy's going to score if he gets on base.
You caused.
So I lost the game.
You lost
for this
the
particular
game.
team.
Mark that up.
And the head coach comes out to me and he says, "How can you make that call? And how can you do that? And what are you doing? That's not even your call." And he's being rude to me and he's being very disrespectful to me. So then I dumbed it down a little bit and I explained it step by step what I was doing and what I was supposed to do and what I did do. And then he looked at me and he said, "What? You can't talk to me like that." Oh, I'm sorry. You thought you could come out here and talk to me in whatever manner you wanted to talk to me, and then you thought I was just gonna smile and just give a really nice response back to you and not tell you exactly what I thought was going on.
Yeah.
I said, "That's not how it works." No, I'm sorry. That's not how it works. If you want to come out to me next time, you want to be more respectful, I would be way more respectful. But at the same time, I'm going to give what I get, you know, and these coaches these days know that more about me than they did before. You know, before I was, okay, yeah, all right. You're not happy. I get it. Okay, you're not going to be happy on every call I make.
No.
Like, I get that. Say it. Okay, are you done yet? Okay.
We got it.
Right.
You're not happy.
Okay, we got it. Hey, but look, don't come back out here next time. That's your one. I'm going to give you one today. That's your one. You know, and I feel like I have 0 head coach ejections. 0 head coach ejections in the state of Nebraska and the state of Iowa since I've been umpiring for the last 17 plus years. 0 head coach ejections. 0 assistant coach ejections. I've had 1, maybe 2 player ejections in Iowa and 2 player ejections in Nebraska.
It's not a lot.
One of those was Cam Kozel, Arkansas. You know who you are.
You know who he is.
Max, Tri Center. He'll probably see this. That's Cam's family. He knows. But anyway, yeah, so I always felt like my job was to be there for the entire game, good or bad, no matter how good or how bad it was, right? How fair would it be if I let the head coach off easy and let him leave that game, that I had to be there? And there have been some bad games. Like, there have been some bad games, some long games, 5-hour games, 17-plus inning games.
What happens when it's 5 hours?
Oh my!
Do you get paid the same?
Oh, dude, you get paid exactly not the same because now you're losing money.
Well, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
that's the thing these people don't understand.
No.
Like, you're not there counting your hours.
Yeah, no.
But once you get to 5 hours
no.
for the same pay that you just did
Right.
72 minutes
for one game.
for one game, it matters.
one game. And
just as you guys matter. So, like, when you're in the background chirping and you're in the background talking, what makes you not just give up on the game and want to put it away with all the trash? You've seen how even parents talk on the basketball court to referees. I mean, you stuck up for me one time when I was actually at one of the best health that I've ever been in the 20 plus years we've known each other.
Right.
And the lady still had to say the word fat. It just boggles my mind that these people won't go up and down a court, but they're sure the heck. How do you still do it? I mean, you do basketball as well, and you're doing both. How do you stay where you're not giving up on the sport? As I could say I did. I gave it my time. I gave it the best that I could, but I'm not going to allow the disrespect to continue to happen for people who are giving that opportunity for your kid to play the game that they want to play. And the best part is we've had a lot of great coaches who say, we understand the last referees did not call this. They're calling it. They're right. It's not their fault that other people don't call it. Now change your game. That is the best coaching advice anybody can give. If you really, truly know the game, you give credit where it's due to the referee or umpires because they're not out there unless you know that they are, and you could see that they are, the ones that don't even make it down half court. You allow them to be who they are. And I think that could change how you could stay with it, is because there are still enough people out there that allow you to be you.
Right. Well, I think for me, like with basketball, it's always tougher with basketball because people sit right on top of you. Like literally,
There's no fence. There's no gate.
Like, you're a fan and I'm reffing right now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah.
Like there's no distance. You know, there's no like there backstop between us. You know, or you're sitting in the bleachers over here and I'm 250 feet away. You know, there's none of that. So in basketball, it's always a little bit more. It's always more difficult. But I work the most difficult basketball. I work youth basketball. Tournament basketball, select basketball. Like I work 3rd grade through 8th grade. I don't do high school stuff. People are like, how come? Why not? Why not? Honestly, it's the stress level for me, because if I were to do high school basketball at the varsity level and go straight from that into a varsity baseball season, the stress level for me at my age would already be through the roof. To where this weekend stuff I could do, I can get through, 20, 24, 25 games in a weekend. I can do that. And I've always said, as an official, you have to have that certain amount of thick skin. And if you don't have it as thick as it needs to be as thick, things are going to get to you. The things that you hear, you're going to hear. You might want to comment, you will comment, you will respond. But if you have that thicker skin, to whereas somebody says something, and for me with basketball, it's always a turn around and smile kind of thing when I hear something.
Dude, I just kept offering people my whistle. You want my whistle?
No.
You want my whistle,
right.
boy? You want
right. And I always offer people like job opportunities.
Yeah.
Because not everybody
I got
knows.
an extra shirt in my bag. You ready?
Knows how many officials were short all the time, So you have to offer them a shirt and a whistle sometime, and and give them that opportunity. But but for baseball, I've always felt like in baseball, there was always a certain amount of, people call it chirping, yelling, getting on, antagonizing. When I go to a Major League Baseball game, I let those umpires know that I am there. I am there. I have paid all that money. I am there. And if you're behind the plate and I feel like you missed a pitch from my angle, I'm going to say something. I'm probably wrong, but I paid all that money. I'm going to say something, but I'm not going to say, the meanest, most disrespectful thing in the world. I'm going to say what everybody else is going to say. Oh, come on, Blue, where was that? Come on. So I've always felt like with baseball, there's that certain amount of, I expect people to say things. Not everybody is going to agree. I mean, think of it. A 7-inning baseball game, if you're lucky, you're going to see no less than 225, 250 pitches. If you're lucky. Okay. Sometimes it's less. Most times not less. In no way is anybody going to agree with every single call on every single one of those pitches. And for them to just sit there and be like, oh, he missed that one. Yeah. I don't think he missed that one too, guys. And not say anything, I think that's taking something away from the game. And as a player, like back in my day, like we chirped from the dugouts. Like we said some stuff, but we didn't say what a lot of kids say today. I don't even know what some of this stuff means. Okay. Like some of these guys are saying stuff and I don't even know what it means. Like I'm like, what's it mean exactly? But they're saying it, and I'm like, okay. And then this guy's like, oh, hey, did you hear what that dugout said? Yeah, I heard what your dugout said too. Did you not hear what your dugout said? So today it's like, I want to say something, but when they say something, I'm going to say something. And instead of just letting baseball be what baseball's been.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've always felt with baseball that a head coach has the opportunity to say, everybody knows balls and strikes are non-negotiable. Judgment is judgment. You can't argue judgment. Okay. And we're not
gonna change.
We're not at that level where we can do replays. Okay. I'm not at that level. Okay. The other levels are there. Okay. To where judgment can be challenged, or balls and strikes can be challenged. Okay. But at our level, judgment is judgment. It is what it is. Okay. And a ball and a strike is what it is. It's non-negotiable. And everybody knows you can't argue that. And everybody knows you can't leave your position to argue that. But if you're standing 90 feet down the line, you're like, where was that at, Dustin? Down. I'm going to tell you. Or, man, it was high. No, it was right there. Strike 3. Yeah.
Got him.
Yeah, just ask Matt from Sergeant Bluff. But so with baseball, I always expect words to be, even at state tournament. You were there this last year. You heard it all sitting down where you guys sat. You heard the pitches that didn't go the way that they thought they should go on both sides, not just one side, but you heard it. What would that game have been like if those pitches came in and everybody just sat there like plain as daylight? So I always feel like that's a little bit more expected, and everybody always says, well, it comes with the job. It comes with the territory. It does to a point. Okay, to a point it does. And when somebody gets disrespectful now in the stands, especially at a high school game, because, the site manager, athletic director, assistant athletic director, whoever it is, it's their job to manage the people in the crowd. And if they're not doing their job, I will protect myself and my umpire, and I will manage the people in the crowd for them, because it is high school baseball and it is not allowed to sit in the stands as a parent or a fan, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, and criticize the umpires in an awful manner. It is not. You can't say, hey, where was that one at? Hey,
I thought that was a ball.
Yeah,
I thought it was straight.
Look good from where? Look good from
Look great from my view.
Hey, you gave that to that kid last inning. But when you stand up and you belligerent my guy, I'm gonna take care of that in a manner that unfortunately has to be taken care of, and it shouldn't be taken care of.
How many parents have you ejected?
Okay, in the last 3 years, I've asked at least a handful of parents to leave the stands. And one particular parent I asked to leave the stands ended up being the son of the head coach of one of the teams that was playing that night. And when I found that out, I asked the gentleman, I said, you really just let him sit up there and talk like that? I said, you didn't even say a word. I said, that was not a great strike 3. I get it. That pitch was up and out of the zone. But you stood there and you didn't say a word. And then your son's over here just doing what he's doing, and you didn't say a word to him either. Like, that to me shouldn't happen.
No, because your parents, coaches could get yelled at in the same fashion. Would you want your dad to be yelled at by a fan?
Exactly.
That's the way you got to look at it,
and I've always been an approachable umpire.
Yeah.
And I will not argue judgment. I will not argue balls and strikes, but I will discuss baseball rules with you, and I will answer baseball questions for you. But beyond that scope, I'm not going there. It is what it is in today's game, and back in the day, guys thought they could come out and just argue everything. And now it's don't come out specifically unless it's a rules violation or a rules question that pertains to the call, not the call itself, but the actual rule that pertains to that call.
Because you can't change it.
Because that runner's lane interference. I was at a ballpark out east off of I-80, and new head coach for this high school. and young head coach, but been in the program, played for the program, been in the program. I ended the game on a runner's lane violation that night against his team. It was 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th. They were chasing 6 or 7 runs, I believe.
Okay.
I think this particular play would have put first and second with 2 outs. And the ball hit the runner in the shoulder. And my call was easier than the call that I got ejected on because I was literally legitimately on the line as a runner. This kid was all the way on the inside of the line on the grass. So this was a no-brainer. Like, this was like,
duh.
Yeah. Had he not been, if he'd have been even just on the dirt, the first baseman would have caught the ball and game would have been over. So I called him out and I ended the game. And I stood on that field for 15 minutes after that game. And I explained this rule probably 7 or 8 times. I explained the rule verbatim every single time. And he kept saying, I just don't understand. I just don't understand. So now my new thing is this. Everybody gets the same rule book. Everybody gets the same rule book. We all have access to all the same rules. The ins, the outs, the case scenarios. We all have that. Okay. We all have that at our disposal. It's not my fault or an umpire's fault if you choose not to take advantage of those tools given to you and then teach them to your players. And I've asked some coaches, hey, how come you don't say anything when the player runs down the line on the grass and doesn't run in the runner's lane and blah, blah, blah. You know what they say? Oh, I know the rule. I want you to make the call.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So it's like the 3-second rule.
Yeah.
I know the 3 seconds a thing,
Yeah.
but I'm going to have them test it as long as you could go.
Right.
Before you call it. And then once we start calling it,
Right.
I can't believe you're calling 3 seconds. It's out of play.
Right. Just like,
no one calls it.
Like batter's interference on a steal a second. Everybody knows the rule. But they teach them to toe the line
as long as they can.
To see who is going to call what. And again, this is where guys like me and a lot of guys like me, we make up for that guy that doesn't make that call in that situation. Because you have to ask yourself, do you want to end your game on a rules call and have that discussion and that confrontation? Or do you just want to let that go? Hopefully the other team's not going to say anything, because now if they do say something and you didn't call it initially, now you've got to have a conversation with your partner. And it's not your partner's call, and he's probably not paying attention most of the time because he's got a lead runner. And now it's like, okay, now I'm backstepping to whereas I just make the call in the moment. And I'd rather have, as a head coach, I'd rather have a guy that makes the call every time in the moment, and instead of making calls once in a while.
Yeah.
Well,
we of course have went well over, which is not bad. I always love it because it always just leads for more, but we obviously need to get you out of here on the upside. Okay. You've worked the umpiring for a while. You got recognition this year. You're part of now the board of umpires for Iowa. You got the umpire of the year for the Southwest District. What did it mean to get those type of things this year and see all the hard work come to fruition? And of course, now you're doing your own booking. You're starting to see that. And then what's some of the places that you've been able, or levels that you've been able to umpire in this past 17 years that you really are grateful for?
Well, man, I tell you, long-time nominee, first-time winner. Like I get a letter. I've gotten a letter every year for the last 7 or 8 years saying you've been nominated for District Umpire of the Year. In 2020, I believe I got Newcomer of the Year, and I'd been umpiring for 10 years prior. Like I was not the new guy of the year, but I had finally registered with the Iowa High School Baseball Coaches Association that actually gives out the awards. I'd actually registered with them, And to my understanding, if you don't register, then you're not. If you're nominated, you don't win. I don't know. So I register every year. I pay my dues. But the district umpire of the year, I've been nominated for, like I said, every year for the last 7-8 years, and I always think, man, I think that'd be cool. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think it'd be cool. I think it's cool to get recognized for the job that we do. We don't do that in Nebraska. To my knowledge, we don't do that. We don't have an award ceremony for umpires. And to be acknowledged in a room full of your peers, head coaches, umpires, people that may have heard of you but didn't know you, and to be acknowledged like that is, man, it gives me goosebumps today. Like it's like winning that first trophy in our street beats competition, man. I slept with that trophy.
You did sleep with that trophy.
You know what I'm saying? But it was an accolade for me that it's like, okay, here I am, and then by winning that, I'm automatically nominated for umpire of the year. So now I'm in the top 5, and I didn't win that this year, but now that's the next goal. Now I want to be Iowa umpire of the year. I want that. I want to do that. I want to crew chief a state tournament gig. I've worked 6 state tournaments in a row in Iowa, but I haven't been a crew chief yet. I want to crew chief my own crew. I want to work a state championship series. I want to do that. That's my next goal at my level. I want to be the weekend series guy. I want to be behind the plate calling balls and strikes for the championship game. And other spots along the way, I worked the GPAC for a little while. I did some NAIA. I've done some JUCO. I did some UNO fall ball, Division I baseball fall ball. I did the Corn Belt League forever over in Nebraska, where the kids come in from all different colleges across the state and country and wherever. And
you got to umpire Warner Park before?
I've worked at Warner Park multiple times. First time was pretty cool. I did I think it was it COVID year, July 4th for Corn Belt. They sold out the stadium because they did a fireworks show after that game. I called balls and strikes for that game that night. My first state tournament game was at Principal Park in Des Moines, which it was the last year that they were doing state tournament there. And my first state tournament game at Principal Park was literally all of 65 minutes long, 1-0 ball game. It was over before it started, and I don't even remember what happened. I made a call at second base. The kid was safe. He scored. That was the only run of the game. Other than that, Richie Cheese called hell game behind the plate. Matt Nauman was the crew chief working third, and Nick Callahan was working first. And that was my first state tournament game. And I've been working to get there, and I got there, and it was done before it started.
Yeah.
So I'm happy where I'm at. I mean, did I have aspirations of doing college baseball Division I and getting into a good conference and making that money? I did. But what I learned in the GPAC is that travel would have killed me. It would have killed my relationship with my family and my children, and that's when I decided, do you want to be a great umpire at the high school level, or do you want to run yourself to the point to where you're just average on both levels, and then you're missing time with your family as well? And for me, it's always, like, I love my girls. I love being there for them. I hate when I miss things for them, but at the same time, I don't miss as many things. So
it's those little things that we forget about until you talk about it. But I greatly appreciate Dustin Taylor, again, Southwest District of Iowa Umpire of the Year, now part of the members.
I am a
board member.
Board of directors. I'm board of directors listed number 1 in the Southwest District, which I'm guessing if there's like some kind of, to my understanding, maybe some kind of like rule situation or something happens, they're going to call me. I don't really know. I just know that I was nominated and I got the spot and I'm on the list. Yeah.
Just remember to always look out for those umpires and referees because it's not an easy job. You want to go try it? grab a whistle, grab whatever you want to do that job. Just remember, there's a price that you have to pay. Not mentally alone, but physically, and sometimes just exhaustion by the end. But when you analyze yourself as Dustin has these past years, it gets you to where you want to be. Like you said, one of the best in the state of Iowa. Also did some work for Nebraska. But remember, if one parent, one athlete, one coach, someone gets something from this, when you think of the next time you go to a game and you look at umpires or referees, just remember they have home lives too. What are you going to do different? What are you going to change? Hated by many, but you can't enjoy the game that you love without them. So figure something out to be different and help the community of that sport, whether it's baseball, football, basketball. We love the sports and we don't want to lose them. So, and we can't do them without referees or umpires. So make sure.
And we can't do them without our wives either. I just want to thank my wife, Stephanie Taylor. Without her, what we do, we wouldn't do. I want to thank all the schools that work for us or we work for as well in the Southwest Iowa as well. We appreciate your business, and we'll get you taken care of again this season.
That's right. That's right. Always remember Wired Access, All Axcess Granted, which is a part of the characterchronicles.com. You could check it out there. And also we want to give a shout out. The StreamYard is always welcomed and gratefully given thanks to the Omaha Beef. They're struggling this year, but don't be afraid to check them out. They're back home this Saturday at the Slaughterhouse. We have Coach's Show tomorrow, Monday night. That's a show that I produce. And then Thursday night, we'll have Primetime Beef Huddle, another show that I produce and I am a part of. I am the host of that as well. But until next time, we'll see you.
The standard is the standard. We set the standard.